All right, so we are starting here with me versus Broberg in Top Cut, and I did worse, so Kevin gets to go first, and I am, spoiler alert, going to die.
If you've gotten this far into our streams, you might start learning that everybody is going to die to Pumat.
Yeah.
Mitch is not alone in this. And I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Pumat is what I played at Worlds. Pumat's been what I'm playing since Worlds. I've been leaning definitely a little bit towards the Order, so it's nice to have Air as well as Order both be showcased at this event, and we get to watch Mitch try his best.
Yeah.
And maybe watch Pumat put on a clinic, but let's see. And we can definitely like delve into a lot more of the deck philosophies and what these decks are both trying to do if you are unaware.
There's pros and cons to both Order and Air Pumat. Air specifically gets access to both Queen of the Monsters and I believe it is Bug Bite.
Hunter's Ally is the big one.
Yeah, Hunter's Ally, Bug Bite, and Queen of the Monsters are like the big keys for the Air one, because restacking is also very good at finding your assets from discard pile with Pumat to put into play. Both lists, because of Attuned, have access to the card that Broberg is milling right now, Dramatic something or other.
Dawning Horror?
Dawning Horror? There
Dawning Horror is definitely the glue to this deck, and Bug Bite is actually available for both decks.
Yeah.
But Queen of the Monsters as a 2 of in Kevin's deck, and then obviously there are 3 Hunter's Allies. Those are definitely going to be the big differences between the decks.
And we're going to see it right now.
Both players, or both sides, understand the power of Team Hero plus Hunter's Ally, as well as a magnitude of other options. But Team Hero is just such a good card. If you listen to the other videos, I'm going to talk about that card a lot. It is just a toolbox for everybody that has available. So
yeah, and we'll see Pumat here in this interaction gets to respond first, draw some cards, then I'm going to respond, make him commit stuff, because as we've talked about in other videos, Pumat doesn't build particularly wide, so something that I get to leverage is re-readying and using Forceful Negotiator on both of his attacks to, if he's going to make me tap down 2 cards, I'll do the same thing to him.
Yep.
But it's a little bit, yeah, I was gonna say it's a little bit harder to stem the bleeding against Pumat once they stick a massive mutant machine against you, because I don't have a lot of resets, or if I do, they're easier to answer or not repeatable very easily. And you see Kevin lands the first mutant machine here, and that is the first death knell. I'm gonna respond to pass myself a card here, mostly to just have 4 foundations ready to block with, less so because I think Forceful will actually wind up coming up again here, because 7 high on 4 foundations, even with a +1 block, is still 3 of those tapped. So in a perfect world, I get to wind up with exactly Forceful Negotiator in my face up if I had a +1 high, but I don't. So this is mostly just to have insurance in case I check super poorly. But yeah, just put those anywhere. But yeah, I am able to full block the first one, keeping up a 4th wielder just in case he plays an attack that is slow enough that if I give it minus speed, I can block it. That's not one of those.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's not one of those. That is actually the absolute worst case scenario. If we were listening to player audio, you would hear me squeal, but that didn't wind up happening.
Is admittedly a reasonable response to what is currently happening. So.
Yeah, and also Kevin playing really well. Weird. Holding on to that mutant machine and getting rid of the Dottie, saying, hey, Mitchell, I've seen you play your deck for 6 rounds. There's no shot you're dealing 28 on 1 momentum with 4 foundations. So I'm going to just get rid of my defensive resource, and I'm going to keep my mutant machine so I can use it multiple times the next turn.
Yep. Yeah, just throwing the Dottie. Damage when you know it's good, especially against a deck like yours, is so powerful.
Yeah.
Because there is going to be attacks that the Mitchell deck just physically cannot block, and 17 is a number that we get really close to in Pumat.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen it earlier on these games, but you're going to see me lead with Queen of the Monsters here, and in a character like myself that always has momentum and always can turn it on as early as the first attacking turn, Queen of the Monsters is an attack and a foundation and a card, and it's everything you could ever ask for. Yeah. So
it's absolutely unbelievable, and your deck, compared to all of the other decks, gets to showcase it, in my opinion, even better than the rest of them, because you are passing yourself this momentum. You have the freest momentum. Like, we need to add more ways to get momentum. So
yeah, the other best part about it too is The problem that you wind up having a lot of the time in these decks that you hold these defensive actions like Protector of Life for is sometimes they just become dead cards if your opponent builds, but in me, they're never dead cards because if I review them and they go to momentum, as long as I find a way to spend them, I can get them back later when I don't need them. But,
and I know you have a bunch of ways on foundations as well as attacks to just use them and pass them to yourself all the time. You untapped a foundation last turn, all sorts of cool ways. Cheerleader. I think you can name better than I could, but there's just so many cool pieces that do it.
Yep. And you're going to see right now in my hand a little sneak preview of why I was checking the discard pile earlier and why I, despite this being an absolutely horrible position for me with a stuck mutant machine in play and no opportunity for me to deal damage and getting breakered here, was like, maybe there's something here, is I have Drive Parry in my hand, which can cancel and enhance in a foundation. And you know as well as I do that one of the best things that Pumat can do is stack something and then form draw it, or use an ability on the weapons at the ready there to restack the tech and then draw it later. But if I can get you to commit for cost and then cancel that, A, I get to re-ready something when I play my Drive Parry, which might even be a Forceful Negotiator, and B, I get to stop you from having an attack, which might be what separates me from dying.
Oh, yeah.
It's not, but it might be.
Yeah, it's closer. It's closer that way.
Yeah.
And I love Census O in this deck. I like that card just a lot in general, but you're just getting to showcase this a little bit. Obviously, the check wasn't incredible, but you get to kind of alleviate that by putting one of those back in your hand with probably building it again and things like that.
There's a lot of really interesting applications, and you see Elijah, I believe DeQuavius Bingleton in the Discord earlier on stream. He's leaning more into the order/good symbol combination that you get access to with Imprisoned and King of Ilaria to just keep your opponent in jail. I'm using Census O a lot more to just like build utility during my strings, and half of the time what I would wind up doing would be against stuff like King Ghidorah in tournament or against the opposing Titan of Terrors. If there's a bomb in their graveyard that I can't answer, I will use an Immense Showdown rather, flip 2, bury 2, then play my Census O, rebuy my Immense Showdown, immediately play it again, and weave in between my 4 difficulty attacks, and then double bury 4 things before my opponent gets a chance to choose to form them first, because there's represented interaction for the graveyard in play. Titan of Terror can dodge it by just playing from the graveyard first. But if it's not there going to their turn, they can't anymore.
Go, oops.
Yeah, oops. So. And against Kevin specifically, if I had seen Immense Showdowns, it might have mattered, and I might have not needed to hold the Drive Parry for canceling a draw enhance, but wound up not mattering here because he had the first mutant machine from hand regardless of digging for it. But
we got another Hunter's Ally to start this turn. He's only playing 3, so getting hit as first form on both turns is a little rough, but he's at least having to think it's not an obvious answer. The Dottie did get sacked, so that's always just like a free one to come back, and there it is again.
In my head, that's where we're really at, because that is part of what the air build gets to do super well. Is a lot of the times people go, oh, well, you know, I can maybe like live through one of the sword play turns with like a trick, and if they do that, then they've lost their mutant machine, and then it's a lot easier to live through every other one. But with this list, every single Hunter's Ally can kind of be a pristine sword play as well, because you get Doty back.
Yep. Obviously, you need to keep going on your chain of attacks, but yeah. But that Dottie's also just a card that Pumat can build on your opponent's turn, your turn, and continue that in some way. But Hunter's Ally just makes it so clean, so easy, as well as being able to build other foundations and Team Hero. So if you're looking for, I would say the more... What would you say separates Order versus Air on these two decks? I've played both of them, but I'm curious what you believe on those.
Mostly, I believe the difference is the Queen of the Monsters and the Hunter's Ally.
Sure.
So kind of just leveraging and deciding how much you want to lean into, check a 3 by the way, leveraging and seeing how much you want to lean into these like incredibly potent and powerful 5 difficulty cards before you commit to the ones that kill them, so to speak. But
checks the 3 by the way.
Yeah, checks the 3 by the way. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Ooh,
the Air list also getting access to Batra Arrives, that card's crazy. We saw Phil earlier in this tournament being able to play it, and I believe that Order also gets access to it.
Yeah,
but
okay.
I was gonna say, but in this deck specifically, combining it with the other like really potent abilities on some of the air cards, you can just make sure that your opponent does not ever have an answer to your answer, and the things that they need to cover on air are much like better or more important. And also on air, you get stuff like creative counter, which helps alleviate Pumat's problem of, well, I'm not building my stage out super wide, so in those hands where I don't want to be blocking with an attack because I need to use this when I already have stuck a mutant machine and represent a better string, I can block with a foundation and build it and for profit, as opposed to losing access to an attack and then having to decide, well, I'll tap my opponent down because I need to right now, but I would have much rather have drawn 2 cards to see more attacks. On air, you can kind of just leverage your stage a little bit better, and you have stuff like Rifle Arm as well, which is really strong, especially when Pumat's trying to pull the I'll block 1 thing per turn with this breaker block ability. And if you're doing that on their first attack, giving it -3 speed, and then going, okay, I'm done. You can't turn 2 or turn 3 cheese me because I'm tapping you down for 2 and breaker 2ing you. Doing that with Rifle Arm is really easy.
Oh yeah. Obviously both decks get time to counterattack as there's a lot of overlaps you're going to see between the two. I do believe the order's a bit more all in, but Mitch gets to start off with an electric moth checking an attack.
As you do.
Which is a card you both play.
Yeah.
Another highlighted card, less I think for Pumat, but still just good to have card selection.
I've worked a lot with Ryan on this Mitchell deck, and we decided going into this event, because we've been going to a bunch of different LCs and making iterations and changes leading up to Chicago, and we put Moth in because a lot of the times, because our deadlock is so good in this deck, people will just sit at 10 foundations, which meant that we put in stuff like...
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we put in stuff like Moth, and we put in stuff like Net Launcher to either force our opponent into deadlock or go, oh, cool, you're at 10, not deadlock, but Moth says I get an extra card off
Moth
of that.
lock.
Yeah, and also you can wind up accidentally locking yourself into seeing only the same cards across turns by just spending them with my face and putting them back in your hand. And Moth helps you like get deeper into your deck or dig more if you really need to. And also in conjunction with the attacks that build stuff from graveyard, if you wind up drawing a foundation that you need to be able to build and you don't have a Sensaso that lets you build it from hand, you can pitch it, have it in your graveyard, and then have access to it with something else later.
And he's
Kevin here
just more mutant machines, and that's going to be kind of the tail of probably this whole match, it sounds like.
Yeah.
But it's nice that we can at least highlight other things going on, talk about your deck philosophies, the opposing deck philosophies, and I'm excited to talk about decks that aren't Titan Terror.
For sure, yeah. The real struggle that the Mitchell versus Pumat matchup has on either symbol is the fact that if you're playing intelligently on Pumat and you're not wasting the mutant machines, you can kind of just always have a threatening attack string that demands an answer for tall attacks. And it takes me a little bit longer to end games than I have.
Yep.
Because you can turn the corner way quicker, sometimes even as quickly as turn 2 on either symbol.
Yep.
But even if you don't, as long as you retain the mutant machine, you keep that same pressure up. And if I ever overextend, I cannot answer those, which means that I don't get to progress if I want to be safe from mutant machines. And sometimes it doesn't matter how safe I am from mutant machines if you have a redundant amount of them or a Dottie.
And like what Kevin's doing here and highlighting the power of this deck is, I don't think there's a lot of attack strings in the Mitchell deck that start with Electric Moth that deal 28 damage or 20.
Definitely not. Yeah, you can absolutely just disrespect decks like this by just cheating out your mutant machine and going digging for it. And then, you can also, if you want to, hold it for those strings that are usually pretty close to exactly as for math. You can hold it and then deflect.
Yeah, or just Dottie.
Yeah,
right?
Or just Dottie.
All the builds get both of these options, and the amount of games that is decided by a deflect 3, go to your turn, donning horror back, and just knocking your opponent's head off, kind of highlights the power of even though Pumat's defenses are a bunch of small little pieces, Mikasa defeats, creative counter, deflect, Dottie, they all compound really, really well to the point where it's really hard to actually successfully get strings, especially if you're making all these plans and then you throw one attack that's maybe not quite good enough and you just get timely counterattacked and you're like, oh,
yeah,
now I have to keep trying, and it's
Correct.
So impossible.
Yeah, the real other deciding factor, I think, on air specifically, and not necessarily to say that one or the other is better, because
order's better.
Yeah, believe it or not, both of the variations made it to the finals of our event. Spoiler, I'm dead.
I think we led with that.
Yeah, we led with that. But
this one's more of a podcast, so welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the top 8 podcast. But Yeah, aerial Goblin Bolt on or on air rather is a crazy thing to be able to have access to, especially considering normally it's a pretty mopey 3/3, but like we've said, if we retained our mutant machines, that's a 8/8 that turns something off and also sits in your card pool to cancel something else later.
And you were talking about that earlier about like they can find so many attack strings that you're like, oh, I guess my fourth or third attack on this string will be a Goblin Bolt or a timely counterattack.
Yeah.
And they are just these piddly 3-power, 4-power attacks depending on the timely counterattack. But it's Pumat. There are mutant machines. You cannot disrespect any of these attacks. And it's just so powerful.
Yeah. I think the real deciding factor, like you were saying, is these attack strings just spawn out of nowhere. Dottie is an ally. So if you play air and you have Hunter's ally, you can spawn an extra mutant machine. So instead of playing 4 mutant machines, you're playing like 6. Or instead of playing only like in the order version, monster versus machine as your only way to touch your opponent's specific cards and staging area, you can touch them with Goblin Bolt and then also retain a cancel.
Well, let's not say the only thing, but monster versus machine is one of the additionals. Those two cards, Goblin Bolt and monster versus machine, I think play very, very similar roles. I have fallen in love with the fact on the order side, we do a lot more momentum generation in that version, leaning on Dawning Horror as just like the ability to get through that. But for some reason, Monster vs. Machine has Powerful 2.
Yeah.
And makes a power token. So I think there's a lot of, I think Order is definitely the more aggressive version. Less dirtily, more like, let's see how many times we untap Mutant Machine and can kill our opponent. But they are both very, very powerful. Admittedly, I will probably be testing both for a while.
Yeah.
Unless they do something to the deck, it's such a comfort pick, so.
Yeah, the deck is very potent regardless. And like you see here, it's really resilient and able to, like, he had Dottie up that whole time. So even if I did find a way to string together enough damage, I would still have to answer Dottie. And I'm not on that many foundations. And every turn he's been able to, with these mutant machines, pressure me and keep me at a point where I have to stay with X amount of cards in hand. I have to have these amount of answers. I have to represent a Roman cancel plus a momentum for Refreshing Blend to heal or to re-ready my Forceful Negotiator to try and stop him from being able to do any amount of excess damage. But
and Mitch is playing well. Like, it's not like, I don't think there's any plays that you regretted. Mine, like, some checks didn't go your way, but it just shows, because I did not watch this match. We were doing a lot of other things going on when the top cut finally started. Having the 4 tables going on, I was sitting other places. But I don't see you living this turn, even with the list of array of things that you just listed off.
No, yeah, definitely not. I mean, I have a little bit going for me. I think if we were listening to player audio, I probably said something along the lines of, I'm dead if you have it anyway, so I'll just play to the best spot I can where you don't, and maybe you won't. And then, oops. But that's kind of the mindset that you really have to have, because there's variance in card games. So sometimes he won't have it. And if I put myself in a spot where if he doesn't have it, I live, and he doesn't have it, then look at that, I live. But like you said, we'll see the real absolute sauce of the air list of me just getting destroyed here by a Goblin Bolt, sealing something and saying, hey man,
he's making you commit to first here, giving you, well, you get to choose which ones you want to get rid of, and then he goes, okay, we'll still seal the best one.
Correct.
It's so
yeah,
powerful.
It is a terrible choice, and it's really just backbreaking. And on top of that, he can negate and enhance. So what I'm doing here to leverage that, after he seals my Refreshing Blend, I'm going to immediately go, well, if you negate this enhance, you flip this attack. So I guess I'm going to use my only enhance that matters right now specifically so that you can't cancel it, and I get to maybe block this one. But it still doesn't look great for me.
And we still have Weapon at the Ready plus Fearsome Transformation. There are 2 Mutant Machines, a Dottie, a Team Hero, and that Botchers that you just referenced, plus the Undercover Infiltration for just a little bit of extra poke, to the point where, like, we get to Mutant Machine this one pretty free, even if you use, I keep calling the tension thing just jurying it, because it just set it to 3. But this is the first attack. This is our Goblin Bolt, and you have to think, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I want to do? It all hurts.
Yeah, a myriad of decisions on just the first attack alone. And I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're talking about how stats wind up looking. I'm pretty sure this is going to wind up at like a 6 high or something like that, because the first attack, so it's still Undercover Infiltrationable. So again, just putting this at really specific breakpoints in terms of blocks, it's a hallmark of a good player. I can't comfortably block this and keep my face up most of the time, depending on what he puts it at. And he doesn't even have to put 2 mutant machines into it because he tapped me down for 2 and because he sealed my way to rebuy foundations or spend momentum. And he doesn't have to cover my my refreshing blend with Bachelor Arrives if he just turns it off.
Yeah. And like you were saying, like you are forcing yourself to just use all your buttons here because you either want them to flip the Goblin Bolt, which obviously he's not going to. There's a Dawning Horror. We're going to, I assume, get to see this card buy back a Mute Machine and just continue. Oh, it's an airship, which is...
I was wondering... Okay, I was wondering if I could...
Himself to
I was wondering
okay.
if I could remember if I did still have the Drive Parry in my hand here, because this is me going, wait, hold on.
Oh, sure.
Because I might cancel that specifically. And, okay, yes, because I remember... Okay, what had happened here was he went a little bit fast with it.
Yep.
If I knew somehow and was a mind reader that he wasn't going to use that to pick up something else specifically, I would have not used the Drive Parry here and I would have used it on something else. But I continued to play like I didn't know that that was what was going to happen.
Oh, because there is a Mutant Machine.
Because there is a Mutant Machine.
Yeah.
And I went, well, if I knew you were not going to pick up Mutant Machine, I would not cancel this. But because I don't know that and I have to play like, you know, honorably, and also I think it's the correct play to make regardless, I would be Drive Parry canceling this.
Oh, of course.
Which, regardless of which decision he made, it would not have saved me because I'm pretty sure I die on this turn anyways. But it was technically... You know, my greatest out would have been to cancel this to stop him from potentially picking up another Mutant Machine, because then if I have the Roman cancel and he only has 1 Mutant Machine's worth of stats, unless he plays a base 9 damage move or exactly pristine sword play, then he has to invest literally everything into making sure that he kills me. And my Drive Parry gets to re-ready my Forceful before his next attack, so I get access to commit down 1 more thing. So
playing them is just playing to your outs. That's what and this is like masterful defense on what can you do with what you have.
Yeah.
It's just when your opponent is like, oh, I'm going to pick up the airship, and you're like, that has to be worse.
Correct.
There's a Mutant Machine, and they want to pick up airship.
That's literally what I said out loud, where I was like, yeah, I think it's just over anyways. If you can pick up Mutant Machine and just don't need to, then it's just over.
And the part that sucks here is spending the momentum means that sword play is going to be in play for
exactly. And on top of that, it's right here, what he's doing is he's putting this at a point where he's just going to kill me with the next one, because I'm going to have to use my Roman cancel on this, because if he puts me to lower than 3, the Roman cancel doesn't matter.
Yep.
And also, now that I've burnt my Drive Parry, he has access to Weapon at the Ready to stack an attack, and then he has Fearsome to draw the attack, so I'm just dead 100 times out of 100. But
I will say, he definitely should have done this before the Dawning Horror, right?
It depends, because
we could disco.
If the thing that he didn't actually need was the asset, then he definitely baits me first and then does this.
Oh, sure. To get the... Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Granted,
I don't think he was playing around Drive Parry.
No, granted, he wasn't playing around Drive Parry, but, you know, right answer, wrong equation type thing. But, yeah. But, yeah. Once again, just going through all of it.
And a convenient amount of life total for the card Pristine Sword Play.
Pristine Sword Play at 16 health. Oh, geez.
Because that card does 4 + 5 + 7, which is 16.
Yeah.
Now, that is if there is 1 Mute Machine and you are not looking at 2 of them.
Yep.
But
Yep. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm just having him click buttons here, and then,
Yeah. Writing on the wall. But Air Pumot with a pretty normal I wouldn't say normal. There was a lot of Mutant Machine very quick.
I think it's not necessarily so. I like to, when I'm trying to look back on matches that I've played or trying to look back on games that I've played, I don't really I try to find anything, like, even if I get like absolutely rolled, like my opponent just like turn twos me because they drew the nuts, right? I try to go, okay, well, what could I have done? Or like, what did I do that was like, even if it wasn't going to matter, what were the micro improvements that I could make to be in that spot again, where if a single variation changed, then maybe it would have wound up being better for me. But I think in this game, I played pretty much exactly as I normally would have wanted to, even if I had like more time to think about it. And I played to my outs specifically. This next game that we're going to wind up seeing, for context, this is top 8 and it's pretty late at night.
Very late. We are at what, 10 o'clock?
Yes.
9:30?
Yeah. So top 8 was open deck list, and what I always do in any open deck list format, in same thing as like the last format that was open deck list during that last season, where I will sit down across from my opponent and I will go, hey, if at any point in time in the game you have a question about my deck list or how many cards that I play, just ask me. I'll answer truthfully.
Yeah.
And game 2, I will show you my entire sideboard. You can look at it for however long you want, and then we'll sideboard. And in this game, you tell people how many you bring in and how many you bring out.
Is that is a rule?
That is a rule.
Okay.
It's weird, which doesn't matter, but it is a rule.
Okay.
I mean, it actually kind of matters a lot, but it's not like you can smoke screen in this game necessarily, because if you bring in 10 unique cards and then say I brought out 10 unique cards, you can't say that you brought in and out 10.
Interesting.
Because you can't smoke screen, because you go, hey, I put 10 in and I took 10 out. But if 5 of those 10 that you took out were 5 that you put in, you're lying, which is against the rules.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense.
It is, you do get to, if you have enough information on the format or the read on it and you know what your opponent's sideboard is, which you can, in Swiss you won't, you can kind of in Top Cut know what they're siding, which I think is fine for Top Cut because that's a good spot for that to be in. But you were talking earlier about making all the best plays that you could in the spot and playing to your outs, and that I didn't regret any of my gameplay decisions. But pre-setting up my Johns here, it was late at night, and I took a line in this game that we're going to see that I was pretty proud of in the moment, but wound up probably being incorrect because I maybe could have found a way to either win or put myself into a better spot. But we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see your reaction to it. And I think that's why we're kind of treating this round as a bit of a different, more like I joked about being more of a podcast.
More of a podcast, because I'm here. It's me.
But I think that's a really good, and we're gonna use the sideboard time to go over this. I think that's a really good thing to use if you are somebody trying to get better at the game.
Absolutely.
Review your games, record your TTS games. If you ever make it on camera, go watch it. Like, you can learn so much.
Yeah,
it's an unbelievable resource.
Yeah, the original grind that led to the Wish tournament was some of the best testing that I've ever gotten, because it was something that I could VOD review. And it was specifically targeted, and granted, it was a smaller format, so we had a lot more time to cook and decide, like, can we beat the best deck? And if not, how do we iterate on it to be the best version of the deck that beats the mirror, or that like answers the counters to it, or like the gimmicks that like exist to do this, that, or the other thing. But in general, I bring, with the exception of this one, because it was on the fly and we were working a lot leading up to it. I was so incredibly busy with people from out of town, getting the event set up itself, yada yada. I just didn't have time to set my notebook up. But usually I bring a notebook to these tournaments and I'll write down like where it is, the round, who won the die roll, what character I'm playing against, what symbol, who went first in each game, and I'll do like life total changes and different notes in the margins of each like round in my notebook. And I'll go like game 1, and like even in between games, I won't write like stuff that matters, because like note taking in this game, I don't remember the policy on it, but I can't be like, okay, cool, I know what's the bottom X cards of your deck, I'll write it down in my notebook. It's less that, and it's more game 1, I won because I used Koenma's on his first city rampage, and it let me stay alive and stabilize to the point where I could immense showdown, bury these things, and buried specific target bombs that I didn't have answers for, and yada, yada, yada. And notes and info like that, even if you don't have like perfect recall of your games, I have awful memory, but generally speaking, I can remember most of the games and most of the actions that I take in those games if I have like a prompt or a reminder.
Of a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Sure.
For example, when we watch this game, it's pretty fresh in my mind as we're commentating this, but I can tell you basically exactly the string that I'm going to wind up trying to play that would put him dead exactly, bar deflect 3.
Sure.
Which...
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
We are commentating. This is Monday. The event was on Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's very fresh. But just to reiterate the point, this is Mitchell on Mitchell.
Yeah.
And we are going to live react to the line and
live
see
Mitchell
how you
reaction.
feel about it again. Yeah, live Mitchell reaction.
Yeah, and honestly, play along at home. You'll see during the course of the line what I wind up doing. There's a couple of different options that I could have taken, and I don't necessarily believe they would have led to lethal. One of them specifically I know that I thought of in the moment and talked with Kevin about after was just shy of lethal, if I recall correctly. If that was the last thing that I wound up doing, even through deflect. But there were a couple of different options that I had, and in this game specifically, like we were saying about reviewing your games, I had a couple of major takeaways, and I mentioned it earlier that Ryan and I have been iterating on the Mitchell list throughout these LCs. Something that I picked up on is I need a better or more on-demand way to kill people if the shields are down, or like my deck is a little bit too mopey.
Yeah,
naturally,
it's a bit mopey.
Yeah, generally speaking, that's how control decks usually are. That's how a lot of these decks function. And it's not like my deck lacks kill conditions. It's just that my kill conditions require a little bit more setup than some decks in the format allow. mainly Puma.
Yeah.
I would have thought that that Titan of Terror would be the one that does not allow me enough time to set up my win condition, but both of those characters are 28 health. One of them has tall attacks, and one of them has multiple attacks, which my deck is much more well equipped to deal with multiple attacks because I have repeatable minus speed versus my -2 speed and your +5 speed still leads me to 3 overprinted on your attack, which means that it's really hard to block even with my block tricks.
Assuming there's nothing else going on.
Correct.
Right? So,
yeah, exactly. All things being equal, Pumat should be a harder matchup for me every single time. And the problem is that Titan of Terror is way more represented, and its answers and the answers that exist to Pumat, which there are answers to Pumat.
The thing about this deck is I love Pumat, and I've been making jokes for a couple days, especially after it being our final matchup.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a devastating loss in the final or in the room. There was just such a lack of asset interaction in the entire room and in sideboards that I was very surprised.
Yeah, and it's tough because that's generally speaking, formats that I don't love are ones where there is one incredibly polarizing deck that you have to build around to even have a chance of defeating. And then there's also decks that require very specific answers in the sideboard, and those aren't shared DNA.
Yeah, and I think this event is such a perfect example of that, right?
Yeah.
Because we get to top cut, and I think there were still 3 Titan of Terrors.
Yeah.
And 2 Pumats. There's checks on attack.
Yeah, that's okay.
There were 3 Pumats in the room and 2 were in the finals.
Yeah.
And the other was our friend who played, his name's Steve, shout out Steve, who came back and played after like 6 months of not playing and built my deck and played my deck, and after 3 rounds learned that you get it on blocks.
Yeah.
And so like
he had the same realization that you did, but just way later.
Yeah, way later. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here we talked about how it's very card gamey of like, oh yeah, this gimmick deck, if it doesn't have an answer, or if people stop playing answers to it, it takes over. It's like Dredge.
Yeah.
The minute people stop playing Graveyard Hate, Dredge becomes the best deck. And then the minute they start playing Graveyard Hate, Dredge stops being the best deck and starts being piloted only by the people who really like Dredge. But you'll see here, I take a look at Kyle's. I see Puma and I
you see me.
I just see Kyle. I take a look at Kevin's discard pile and I see, we have a mutant machine already. So that's going to be a little bit loose. And I realize I need a better or a faster clock. So that is one of my key takeaways from this tournament is I need to put better. Yeah. Anyway, I need to put better cards in my deck. It's okay. It happens sometimes.
Brutal.
But I'm like pretty set up defensively here, and having even just that one extra turn is really strong. And he has a Batra arrives to answer my cheerleader if he wants it. He has the same thing that he could use to be answering my moment of normalcy. But having just duplicates of good cards means that it's a little bit harder for him to make that call.
The crazy thing is I think the other top 8 matches were already done.
Yeah.
Shout out the boys though. Half of the top 8, including you, Mitch, was Trading Post players.
Yeah.
But Shri, Matt, and Tam all won their top 8 matches. So 3 of top 4 was really cool, and then obviously the final. So
yeah, it was very, very neat.
Another Electric Moth.
Yeah, another Electric Moth here. I think I jumped the gun slightly here. He was supposed to respond with, or maybe he passed his response to me. I did my thing, then he responded. He wanted to decide what he actually wanted to do after that. But
so because you guys are responding to the same thing, he can pass priority, and then because you are responding, get it back?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure. He said it, and I believe him because he has played a lot longer, and I famously am not great at the rules of this game.
Sure.
I just play it a lot.
Okay.
But I get a little bit bailed out here. He checks a 3 on his Queen of the Monsters, and that means that his Bachelor arrives is tapped, which means that I can flash this if I really want to and say that he's not allowed to get an extra freebie foundation here. And I think I might wind up doing that. I'm not entirely confident, but
looks like it. Yep.
Yeah, definitely looks like it. Cashing in on the cheerleader from the sideboard that I couldn't find a copy of Flash for, just so I knew I would draw my sideboard card. But I think I elected to, there probably is an attack in my hand here, which is why I didn't block this, because I was like, you know what? It's fine. I will let this hit me so that I can get this back so I have a free card to review so I can retain the attack in my hand.
Sure.
But I think, okay, I actually do remember this exactly because this is the turn that I try to kill him exactly.
Okay.
So you'll notice he has 2 foundations exactly. I have a Forceful Negotiator and I have an Airship. And I drew double Spirit Blasts. So what you're going to see me do here is a line that is exactly 28 damage. And to set it up, like we were talking about in the last game, I'm playing to my outs. So when I play my first card here, eventually, after I stopped tanking and doing math.
Yeah, this is after your opponent played an attack and did not build a mutant machine.
Correct. Yeah. So my only known information is that because he has momentum and he has a mutant machine in his discard pile, I need to represent or actively stop him from being able to get it, or make him have to lock into getting it right now and make a decision based on that. So when I play this double Spirit Blasts, I am thinking about responding and committing Forceful to make him commit one of his only 2 cards. The one that he would obviously be keeping up would be the Dawning Horror, because that would be what can fetch him a mutant machine, which is functionally the same thing as if he kept up the copy of when you half block gain 2, because mutant machine saves 3, that one saves 2, so no brainer, you keep up the other one, and also it forwards your game plan. So what I do here is I think about, is it worth it for me to use the Forceful Negotiator here, because I can get a read on what he wants to be doing on this turn based on when he commits. He very quickly does that, so I go, okay, well, he probably wants to pick up mutant machine, so I will let him if he wants to, and I get an extra momentum here at some point off of Finally Free. So I feel like you can probably spot what I'm going to be trying to do on this turn.
Do you want me to spoil it, or do you want?
Yeah. Play along at home, too.
Spoiler alert, I don't know what you're going to try and do.
That's fair. How many times do you think I'm playing this double Spirit Blasts?
I'm going to go for at least 2, because there's an airship.
Yeah.
Is there a secret third answer?
No. The correct answer is 2, but technically 4 times total, because I echo it both times because I'm printing the extra momentum.
Oh. Spoiler alert, that card has Echo, and we all in this room knew that together.
Yes. Yeah. That card is how
wow.
I was going to say, that card I will refuse to cut from my deck as at least a one of, because it's how you break the wall decks, because they can sit there and chain block forever, but if their block mods are +2, it's going to tax them. So you watch me here, ready with Refreshing Blend, and that's why this move is so resource intensive, and why Kevin thinks here for a minute specifically about why I would even do that. Mm-hmm. But what I'm going to try and do now is go, okay, cool. Let's just get to the next part where I echo this so that I can respond, commit Forceful, commit your only way to pick up the known mutant machine. And then if I can't beat the one in your hand anyways, which I believe with what I had resource-wise, I could have if I played a little bit more, like, you know, if I thought more about it, if it wasn't late at night, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
But now we're in a spot. All of his foundations are tapped. Both of his block mods, or all of his block mods are +2 because of double Spirit Blasts. He's not blocking anything for the rest of the turn. So I have to find a way to deal 22 damage right now.
Okay.
And I can deal with what I had found and came up with exactly 22 damage.
You talked about that you felt you could find more. What was the attempt at that?
So you're going to see I have I believe it's Queen of the Monsters to build down this double Spirit Blasts, or it might have been a Census-O to pick up my thing that prints a momentum. And what I had access to instead, if I wanted to, was a way to get extra momentum from something else and use the Census-O build on, I think I had an Urameshi Perseverance in my hand, is what I remember. So if I had something better in my discard pile to grab, I could have used the Urameshi Perseverance. Instead of using the momentum, I wind up using to echo this again to grab something better. Or I could have held the military airship instead of rebuying my double Spirit Blasts for another 2 attacks, which in my head I was like, oh, it's 2 more attacks. Of course I have to do that. Yeah. Instead of doing that, I could have used my airship to rebuy like a Census-O and re-get more momentum for something else, and reuse Census-O's ability to, with an extra momentum, have access to, on the second build, instead of rebuilding the extra momentum card, grab a copy of, or build down a copy of Urameshi, and then with the momentum that I printed from the last one, use that Urameshi to find another dunk that does it. When I went through that line in my head, I found that I didn't have enough unique cards in my stage for the creative capture net, or whatever it's called, canister creation strike, to be lethal.
Oh.
And also be safe. So I go for this line because I know that it is exactly lethal, and because it requires the least amount of like failure checks. And with an inspiring song here, if I make my next check on a 6 and +1 to the check, as long as I check a 5 here, even if I check runner 3s after that,
you're still
I'm safe.
And this is what you'll see a lot of players tanking about, right?
Yeah.
Is you need to not only understand the line that gets there, but then make sure that even on worst case scenario, you're still passing those.
Correct, because I gave my plus check here to this finally free, because if I play it on a 4 and I check a 3 and I have to commit, and it builds down, and then I check another 3. The only thing I have to keep up is my face, and I can't print the extra momentum with Finally Free for my double Spirit Blasts. But this gives me the most amount of runway to check less 3s. So one of my next 3 checks as a result of that play needs to not be a 3, and then I'm good.
Sure.
So that's what we get to. And you'll notice, look at that. He's at 12. He can't possibly block anything else. His block mods are +3 with that red dice as the indicator there. And I'm going to echo this double Spirit Blast again on a 6. And if I had another attack in my hand... At some point
when he doesn't concede here...
Yeah.
Does it start dawning that that's the card in his hand?
The problem is I didn't have another attack in my hand, and I'm representing from 18 health when I know he has 2 momentum and a way to grab a mutant machine. I'm dead to basically anything.
Okay.
And I have, at this point, which this is the part of the line where I would know, okay, he probably has it. I've committed enough at this point where him playing an attack and making me commit 2 foundations leads me to probably not having the resources up to live through the turn anyways. And then, I announce, I'm like, well, blah, blah, blah. I'll put you to 3. Maybe there's a world where you don't have it. And then I take a safety 1, I think, on this. I'm pretty sure I play on a 3 and then on a 5 or something. But just try to develop my stage a little bit more like you were talking about, play to your outs. But I think on that turn, there were a myriad of different ways with the Census Hoe. And the other thing, I could have tried to play to my outs or play a little bit better of a string that beats exactly a Massive Mutant Machine. But the only known one that I had seen was in his discard pile. And I thought maybe he doesn't have 2 of them in the top 15 cards of his deck. And if he doesn't, then I can win before he turns the corner. But alas.
Yeah. How do you feel about your results for the day?
I'm very happy with it. So in the LC that I won at Oinker's Island, it was a little bit of a fluke because I didn't run into any Titan of Terrors in my run. And I was like, well, okay, does my deck actually ever beat Titan of Terror? And the answer in testing was not really very consistently or not very frequently. But in this run, I played a handful of Titan of Terrors and I did okay into them. I'm pretty sure I went functionally 2 and 1, but I played Tam and Swiss and we ID'd and then just played for fun for his stream. So if I had actually played Tam, the results of that match were that he 2-1'd me. But that means that in total over the course of the day, I won, I want to say 2-0 against one of the Titan of Terrors, 2-1 against the other one, and then lost to Tam 1-2. So I went across the day positive win rate against Titan of Terror, which is good because then I can identify these are the cards that, and you see me showing him the Urmeshi, like
the other,
maybe I could have done something else, blah,
and
blah,
shout
blah.
out Kevin. I know that we didn't give this match as much of a commentary side as we did a lot of the other ones, but I wanted to get you on here, get you the chance to highlight your deck, show off, even though, like, respectfully, you got crushed 2-0.
Oh, I did. I got dropped on my neck, and that's what I told people too. Yeah.
You even had things to learn from it, and
yeah, for sure. And I think the big takeaway for me here is that I think that this deck is really, really strong. I like the me deck a lot, and it's just I made a really cool character that I'm not great at building.
I mean, you're very hard to build.
I'm very hard to build, but there's so much there. The bones are so cool. There's so many interesting and neat things to do.
And you're on cool symbols.
Yeah.
That's the other hard part.
Yes, exactly. But I really encourage everyone to check out this deck if you have the opportunity to. There were a couple of them over the course of this weekend that did really well. I know Ryan, also playing a similar list to this, did well at the Gaming Giant LC. And I encourage you to mess around with it. I'm pretty decent on all 3 of my symbols.
Yeah. You were on camera twice.
Yeah, so. I was on camera twice. But yeah, sorry. I was gonna say sorry, Kevin, about not giving as much commentary on your side of the things. I guarantee you don't need our advice on how to play the game. So
yeah, and your deck just the wheels moved.
Yeah, the wheels moved, and we talked about specific, unique, and cool interactions.
Yep.
And yeah, but that was about it. That was top 8. It was pretty quick, but I'm hopefully that you guys enjoyed some of the insights that I was able to provide, both from being the one playing and from being the one taking a step back and looking at it.
Yeah.